Today we're gonna do the hardest topic of Algebra 1. It's positive and negative exponents within integers. Kids always mix up. When they see 2 to the power of negative 1, they're writing the answer is negative 2, which is not. So that's why we're gonna start to do step by step until kids understand. So this is lesson 1, part 1. And then I'm sure it's going to be several parts, so just continue to watch them. And step by step, in a table, each child will be able to differentiate when it's positive exponent and negative exponent. So let's start with exponent 0. Exponent 0 is a very unique exponent. Does not matter what number it is. Just number or a variable, the answer always gonna be equals to 1. So 2 to the power of 0 equals 1. This one is a little bit complicated, so pay attention. Here, the base, negative 2, doesn't have parentheses. Here, we have negative 2 in parentheses. It's a big difference, because what does it mean, negative 2? Do you see this part? So negative 2 means negative 1 times 2. So if you bring negative 2 to the power of 0, it's only this 2. Number 2 is to the power of 0. But negative 1 we do not touch. So in this case, it becomes negative 1, because 1 times negative 1 equals to negative 1. But a completely different story if we have with you negative 2 in parentheses. It means both of them you have to bring to the power of 0. If we bring to the power of 0, the answer here gonna be just 1, not negative 1. There are no negative 0, so that's why here, here, and here, there are no solutions. Then we have with you 2 to the power of 1. In this case, we have with you positive exponent and negative exponent. And number 1 is not considered to be odd or even integer. It's just 1 by itself. So 2 to the power of 1, it's easy, just 2. What's going to be negative 2 to the power of 1? This negative going to be saved. It's going to be negative 2. For 1, does not matter. It's in parentheses or not in parentheses, because it's just negative 2 one time. So the answer here is going to be negative 2 as well. When its exponent is negative, the picture is going to be completely different. This is not going to be negative 2. It's not. Negative 1 exponent means 1 over. For my students, I explain, so 1 going to be your numerator, and this negative sign because that fraction bar. And it's going to be 1 over, and the base just to the power of 1 going to be 2. So it's not going to be negative 2. It's going to be 1 over 2. Okay? So if it's negative, everything is the same except the answer going to be negative. So here it's going to be negative, this one. And then this becomes 1 over 2. So if it's negative 2 without parentheses to the power of negative 1, it's going to be negative 1 over 2. Here would be different story, but again, it's just 1. And we know with you the number by itself, just 1. If you don't multiply by another negative number, so this is going to be still negative. So no difference. This is going to be negative 1 over 2. these two are like exceptional rules. Now we're gonna see a beautiful rules. If exponent is positive, only the third column gonna be affected. It's not gonna be, I'm sorry, cut out this part. If exponent is even, it's gonna affect the last column. This column gonna be different. If exponent is odd, everything's gonna be practically the same. Okay, let's start to see. 2 to the power of 2. What does it mean? It means 2 multiplied by 2, just 2 times. So what is going to be? 2 times 2, 4. But if you have here negative 2 to the power of positive 2, what we're going to have with you here, negative 1 stays by itself, and 2 to the power of 2, we know already, it's equals to 4. So the answer here going to be negative 4. We're going to copy here, negative 4. And because this in parentheses and to the power of 2, which is even number, even exponent. So what we're going to have? We're going to have as you negative 2 times negative 2, which is going to give you negative times negative, positive. So the answer here is going to be positive 4. Let's do this one with odd power, and then we're going to move to negative exponent. So here we have with you 2 to the power of 3 means what? 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. It's easy part. So I always say to my students, here you're looking for area of a square, and here you're looking for a volume of a cube. That's why cube has 3 sides, it's 3-dimensional figure, and square has only 2 sides. That's why we call with you 2 squared and 2 cubed. So if it's negative 2 to the power of 3, what does it mean? It means negative 1 times 2 to the power of 3. So what is the answer going to be? This is 8 times negative 1, going to be negative. This is going to be negative 8. Negative 8. So here, we have this negative sign. So here we have with here in parentheses negative 2 to the power of 3. So what does it mean? It means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And this is completely different stories than here. Here we have with you negative 2 times negative 2. We know with you negative times negative gives you positive. That's why here it was positive 4. Here you have the following. Negative 2 times negative 2 becomes positive 4. And then positive 4 times negative 2 gonna give you negative 8. So it's gonna be negative 8. So here, let's see the rule. If it's even exponent, only this one, middle column, gonna have negative answer. And the first and the last column always gonna be positive for even exponent. Because this is negative 1 is not affected by this power 2. Here we're gonna have positive. If exponent is odd number, here we have positive, and these two does not matter. You're gonna have parentheses or you're not gonna have parentheses. It's gonna be still negative number always. So now these two, let's move to negative exponent, and that's where every single student is confused. This negative exponent does not affect the sign in front of the base. So part 3, we're going to be talking only about negative exponents, and there where majority of the students are really confused because they see negative exponent and they think the answer gonna be negative. It's not. We're gonna see where it's gonna be negative, where it's gonna be positive. But the minute you see a negative exponent, you can start right away by doing the following. You're writing 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over. So now 1 over what? Gonna be here 2 to the power of 2. So this negative sign disappear. Negative sign of the exponent. So, and what's gonna be 2 to the power of 2? It's gonna be 4. So the answer here is gonna be 1 over 4. And it's gonna be everywhere in this line the same. 1 over 4, 1 over 4. The only thing, this sign gonna affect the answer here and here. So here you have negative 2 to the power of 2. You look here, negative sign. Here it's gonna be negative sign. You see here, if it's in parentheses, but to the power of 2, because it's even power, then it's gonna be positive. So this answer is positive. Now let's see what's gonna be here. Everywhere here, your denominator gonna be 8, because what's here is gonna be 2 to the power of 3. Now positive power of 3. So what is 2 to the power of 3? 8. So it's very easy. The answer is going to be 1 over 8. Here, because we don't have parentheses, and in this case it does not even matter because the exponent is odd number. The minute it's odd, the answer is going to be negative, and the denominator going to be the same, 8 and 8. The hardest part is always the third column when you have negative base. In this case, it's in parentheses. Will it affect that? No, it's still going to be negative. Look here, we have as you negative 2 to the power of 3 equals to negative 8. So the entire answer here going to be negative 8. So now these two going to be homework. We're going to overview with you easily. I'm not going to write anything, but I'm going to give you direction. So the best way to do, copy these two rows. It's totally going to be 6 and 6, 12 exercise. Copy them. And when you're going to start to do them, you can watch the video of these 3 parts and follow. Actually, you don't need 3 parts. You will need only part 2, and part 3. That's what you will need to follow that, because 0 and 1 are very exceptional. So what's going to be here? Positive, positive. The answer is going to be positive. This is going to be 2 to the power of 4, which means what? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. So here, 2 to the power of 5, it's going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is going to be 32. Here, it's negative, but there are no parentheses, so nobody cares. The middle column always going to be negative, always. Here we have parentheses, so here it's a little bit confusing. You have to look at the exponent. Even, the answer is positive. Odd, the answer is going to be negative. Now when we move to this part, where the negative exponent, this is the hardest, this is the most confusing. You have to understand, this negative sign does not affect sign in front. The negative sign, right away you can write down 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over 1 over. That's what negative sign does. The minute you wrote 1 over, your denominator going to be the same, but with positive exponent. So to eliminate negative exponent, we're writing with you 1 over, and everything goes into the denominator with a positive exponent. Look here, 1 over, that's your minus, gave you 1 over 3, 2 to the power of 3, here on the bottom it becomes positive 2 to the power of 3. The sign here in front of the base, that's where you have to decide which is going to be positive, which is going to be negative. If there are no parentheses here and here, here and here, all the answers always going to be negative. So middle column here and middle column here, the answer is always negative. The hardest one is the third column, because as we said with you, even exponent, the answer is positive. Odd exponent, the answer is negative. The same here, you're going to write down, get rid of this negative, it's going to be 1 over, 1 over, and then the rest is going to be to the positive power. So, but you have negative 2 to the power of 4. 4, what kind of number? It's even number. So the answer here going to be positive. And because 5 is odd, the answer here is going to be negative. So pay attention here. Positive, negative. Again, going to be positive, negative. So my advice, you can do it several times. Copy it and do it several times. Even this one, copy, look several times, watch several times the video, copy and do it a couple times. It's okay to repeat the same exercise several times. You're not gonna remember. You're gonna remember how to do this or that. Don't be afraid, because now we're gonna finish only with base 2, and then we're gonna move with you to the base 3 and the base 4 and probably 5. These are the easiest one to operate. Okay, so please concentrate, do it, and then only watch next 2 parts, because I'm gonna give you and write here the answers, so you can check up yourself, you're right or you're wrong. Let's do the solution here. Both numbers are positive, the answer is gonna be positive, but this is gonna be, what does it mean? 2 to the power of 4. It's mean 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is gonna be 4 times 4, 16. And easy here, then 16 times 2, which is gonna give you 32. Here it's easy to, no exponent, no parentheses, so it's very easy. The answers here gonna be always negative. Look here, negative, 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 negative. So the middle column is very easy. The first column and the second middle one, very easy. Complications we have with you only in the third column. So here gonna be negative 16, and here it's gonna be negative 32. Here we have different story, because this means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So what we're gonna have is your negative times negative, gonna give you positive 4. And then again, negative times negative, gonna give you positive 4. Positive 4 times positive 4, gonna gives you positive 16. And remember the rule we said, even exponent, positive answer, if the base is in parentheses only. So here we have with you what? Odd. So it's going to be positive 16, which we receive here, times negative 2. Going to give you negative 32. And this is part 5. Let's move to part 6. This is pain in every single part of your body. Okay, but if you concentrate and practice several times, you will see how you're going to differentiate everything in your mind, then it's not going to be confusion. Okay, so here, negative exponent. Negative exponent does not mean that the answer here or here going to be negative. This negative sign in here gives you this 1 over, 1 over. Here then you receive 2 to the power of 4, which is, we know, with you 16, so total answer here going to be 1 over 16. Here you're going to receive what? 2 to the power of positive 5, which just gives you the answer 1 over 32. Easy. Here you have negative 2 to the power of negative 4. As we said with you, exponent, get rid of negative exponent. How? You're writing 1. You're writing 1 over 2 to the power of 4. Here again, 1 over 2 to the power of 5. But because we don't have with you here parentheses, we don't care. If it's negative, becomes negative. Negative becomes negative. See, both positive, the answer positive. Negative, the answer's negative. So here the finale is going to be negative 1 over 16, and here it's going to be negative 1 over 32. The confusion comes here in a third column. Even exponent, the answer is going to be positive. So we already have it. We already know it's going to be 1 over 16, and it's positive. So what's going to be here? Because the exponent is odd, the answer is going to be negative. So this one is going to be negative 1 over 32.